Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode here at Bulletproof Selling. My name is Sean Rhodes, and I am the Chief Sales Sergeant of Bulletproof Selling and author of the book Bulletproof Selling, a guide for systemizing sales on the battlefield of business. Now, for the last couple of years, we have been here with sales leaders, best-selling authors, Hall of Fame speakers, folks that are experts in being able to do just one thing, and that is to remove hope from how salespeople sell, how they operate, and probably most importantly, how they serve. And every one of these episodes, we focus on the fact that if you're in sales, you're on a battlefield. Now, you may not be on an actual battlefield like the ones that I had to grow up on as a younger man, but we had to learn there that hope was not a strategy. And as I got into business, as I got into sales for myself and was able to work with hundreds of teams across hundreds of industries, we discovered that a lot of salespeople, whether they know it or not, are falling back on this thing called hope, hoping their deals close, hoping phone calls are returned, hoping emails get responses. Hope plays into so many areas of our sales cycle, and we know this because so many times we don't get the results that we're after. We're not able to sell as much as we know we're capable of, and that means we're not able to serve as many customers as we know we can serve. So here at Bulletproof Selling, our mission and our mantra is that hope is not a sales strategy. So we are here with guests to work through this issue, to figure out where is this sales leader seeing hope enter the plan and the picture in their industry or for their salespeople. And of course, every single one of these episodes, we build a system just like the ones that we used on actual battlefields to make sure that we were able to innovate at a high level, regardless of the amount of experience that we had. And if you've been with us for any amount of time, you know that there's a group of people that I get really excited to be able to bring on the show. And those are military veterans, because these folks already understand the power of process. They understand how it keeps people alive and how it allows us to take someone that's, probably not got 20 years of life experience over their entire lives and spin them up with more than 200 years of lessons learned and give them the ability to innovate when it matters, when success and failure is on the line. So today's guest, another Marine Corps veteran, which means I'm going to do my best to use, short words. We won't have to get down to like monosyllabic words because he was an officer in the Marine Corps, which means he's slightly smarter than the average Marine, but not by much. And my Marines, understand where I'm coming from there. We like to joke around with each other. We are the tip of the spear for folks, and that means that we have a very specific role, something that I'm really excited to get into our guest with about because course of his career, not only has he been able to understand that, hey, sales requires process, but there are some gaps in where a lot of salespeople pick up the phone and begin dialing in, where they begin communicating with a customer, gaps where hope is entering the picture. And I'm really excited to dive in to solve those because at the end of today's show, you are going to have one more system in your lineup, in your arsenal, to make sure that you're better able to sell and better able to serve. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome onto the show today the Senior Regional Sales Manager for Spirent. He's a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps, was a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps. My pleasure to welcome Mr. Tyler Watkins. Tyler, welcome to Bulletproof Selling.
John, thanks for having me.
Tyler, so you heard a bit of an intro. I'm going to try to keep the words short because that's what Marines need in order to function. I'd love for folks to learn a little bit about your journey because a lot of people say, the military doesn't prepare people very well for civilian life at all, let alone a career where you have to manage all these spinning plates like you do in sales. So walk us through your time in the Marine Corps, what you got to do to serve our country, and what you're doing today to help serve your customers.
Yeah, so I joined the Marine Corps in 2016, went through the traditional OCS TBS pipeline, intelligence officer. So started off with signals intelligence and electronic warfare as a specified discipline. Supported a lot of different mission sets from Afghanistan mission sets, Spain, MAGTAFs, MEWs, you name it. And spent about 6.5, 7 years, and then started to decide that it was time for me and my family to move on to the next phase of life. I wanted to get into the civilian workforce, and sales is a very untraditional. A lot of junior officers, you want to go be project managers because that's all you know. Sales is scary. You're used to getting that paycheck on the 1st and 15th of every month, and then you go into a job where it's eat what you kill, and what you're able to do is, or what you're able to bring home is based on your success and criteria. But that's what I really liked about sales is it was performance based. I like to perform. I like to succeed. I like to win. So I knew success or sales was right for me. as a next career. So went through officer recruiting, some AMO recruiting firms. They found me a great job along the coast of South Carolina, where I was born and raised, and with a company called Camfil. So it was a OEM of filtration manufacturing. Height of COVID, it was a big business then. Spent about 2 years with that company, promoted me up to run the state of Tennessee. And then my wife looked at me and said, "Hey, I want to move back to DC." So luckily, I knew there was a lot of sales business, especially for the military government industry, back up in the DC area, and joined Spirent Communications this past March. So I've been with them, and it's been a great ride so far.
And what have you found has been really helpful for you? The mindset, the skill set that you learned in the military. Where does that really apply in the world of sales?
Yeah. So I'll cover a few things. Like, first off, mindset, 100%. We learned in the military our mindset will take us far. The two mindsets that really stick out for me are that I constantly reinforce in my sales career is one, a servant mindset. You hear that a lot in the officer corps, and we'll talk about that again later. And abundance, or a winning mindset. I want to win. Again, I said sales is an incredible career for anyone willing to take the risk. However, to be truly exceptional and produce great results, you must know the incredible effect that that money can have in your life and your family's lives, and the generosity that you can provide for others. So you have to want to go out and make a lot of money, so that it's an abundance mindset. Your people are buying stuff from you, so you want to kind of show that same mindset in generosity and generous in all endeavors. Two.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, because you got one more in the pipe. I want to hear it.
So the two is personal standards. So in the Marine Corps, we knew that our personal standards set us apart from others. Sales is no different. Each company is going to have its own set of metrics that no matter who you work for, they're going to say, "Hey, you must book X, Y, Z, throw out a number of appointments per week to maintain your job," whether it's cold calls or meetings or whatever it may be. And I think that has led to the success of many different roles is the constant drive to set my own standards. I set my own personal standards above what my company requires. So they might require 14 appointments a week or something like that. But I'm going to set an outside metric of 5 to 10 new clients a day, 35 to 70 per week. And depending on your average deal size and conversion rate, those external metrics that you set yourself can produce extreme and incredible results. So,
and I feel like that's something we got from the Marine Corps, from the military in general, but I know especially the standards that you and I were held to. If you met the minimum standard, you were failing. that was, because we had this thing in the Marine Corps, for the listeners out there that don't have military experience, called the PFT, the physical fitness test. Mm-hmm. And, let's say, you got to run 3 miles. Well, if you get that 3-mile run done, let's say in under 25 minutes, you pass. But if you're that man or that woman to cross the finish line at 25 minutes, people are going to put you on a special plan, because there's no reason that you should take you that long to come across the finish line. Sales is the same way. Like Tyler said, you might hold yourself to a standard that's higher than what your company is holding you to. And that way, you're putting in the effort to guarantee your own success. And so, Tyler, I want to dive into where you see salespeople kind of dropping the ball in this area, because it sounds like you're a man that has tried to eliminate hope as much as possible from how you sell, how you operate. I'm curious to know, though, on your end, where do you see salespeople relying on hope, and the salespeople that you've been able to run into across the years?
Well, I think we just covered it great just then. I mean, they're going to hit those people that rely on hope. They're going to hit those 14 appointments a week, and then that's the minimum standard. And then they're going to hope that 10 of those 14 call them back, because they need to have 10 secondary meetings every week. And their conversion, their numbers dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And they're just hoping for someone to call and make a sale, hoping for someone to call and purchase something from them, instead of going above and beyond, understanding their conversion rate from an initial appointment to all the way to a closed sale, and knowing what their initial touch number needs to be in order to get to that final, that closed one number. So it's, you have to understand the numbers, and you have to provide a personal plan, and then you have to execute on those tasks every single day. You have to make those calls. You have to get in front of those people every single day. And I think Mike Tyson said it best. He was like, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. A lot of people, especially in the sales career, they hate the cold calls. They hate the having people tell them no 10 times. But that's what I think makes a great sales guy, is being able to shake it off and go after the next one. Because at the end of the day, unless you're executing on those tasks every single day, you're gonna fail 9 times out of 10.
And so talk to me then, especially in your industry, working for the government. I know you're running into a situation right now where, with continuing resolutions, the people that you do business with, they might have money stockpiled away for a lot of different things, but they're operating off a budgetary cycle. There are, certain budgets allocated for certain things, and a lot of the salespeople listening to this show are in similar industries with the businesses that they sell to. Whether you're selling equipment or software, the companies, might have a zero-based budget, or they might have so much allocated each and every quarter for what it is that you sell. But where does hope play into this for your folks right now, Tyler? Because I know if I'm calling and that company might have money, but they don't have a budget, the thing that I know a lot of salespeople will do is say, well, great, when do you think you'll have budget? I'll make sure I'm back in touch then. If they go that far, I know a lot of salespeople will just stop there and say, okay, well, I guess call me when you get budget, leaving the ball in the prospect's court. Where does hope play into this cycle that you're in, where money might exist, but there is no budget right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're just selling to the end user, especially in the government side, you're going to run into problems, because there's a whole separate entity in terms of purchasing and acquisitions. There are different folks over there who speak different language. And if all you're talking to is the end user who wants this piece of equipment, and you don't go to the contracting, the acquisitions personnel that says, hey, we have XYZ amount of budget, it allows us to purchase this, and this, then you're just hoping. You have to understand that full acquisition process, especially in a situation like the continuing resolutions, which is going to contain language that prohibits new starts or activities that's not previously funded by Congress, or did not take place in preceding years. So you need to get in front, remove the hope, get in front of those contracting and purchasing folks, and understand the language that they speak, so that you know how to tailor fit your solution to where they can actually spend the money that they've been allocated.
So let's talk about building a system around this, because I know so many salespeople, when they call up, they have to, convince that person to find the money or reallocate the money for what it is they're trying to sell. But I think if we could systemize a way into helping our clients develop a budget for what we sell, especially in those enterprise level sales that so many of us are becoming part of these days, I would really love to hear what this system would look like from another military veteran. So when we build systems here, Tyler, it's just like we had on the battlefield in the Marine Corps. We use acronyms all over the place. So here at Bulletproof Selling, we use this acronym TRIM, TRIM, for our systems builds, especially as it applies to sales, because we're trimming hope away from the sales strategy with each new system. So the TRIM, Tyler, is the trigger. If I'm attempting to systemize a process where I can help my customers develop budget for what I sell, where do I trigger this system? Is it when I get them on the phone and discover there is no budget? Is it earlier in the sales process when I'm developing my ICP, or when I'm qualifying leads? As a salesperson, where would you recommend somebody start here?
Well, everybody's going to be different, and you're going to acquire customers or conversations with customers at different points of the sales cycle. So sometimes they're in their initial research. They're getting out in front, and they're going to submit a budget. I mean, that is extreme. That is the ideal time, because you're able to determine, because at Spirent, at least, we sell a solution it's like a car. I mean, you can either get a Volkswagen, no offense to Volkswagen, or you can get a Ferrari. Yeah. But I mean, it spans a wide range, and the price is going to span a wide range as well. So if you don't understand, if the customer doesn't understand exactly what they need and the configurations they're going to need in order to get that number, they're going to submit a budget that's incorrect. So, I mean, that's the first part of the, I guess, the trigger, is that initial conversation. You need to be having questions and discussions about budget as soon as you speak with that end user. From there, I mean, like I said, it's, if you can get in contact with the purchasing or the acquisitions personnel, that can usually be triggered on a second call. So, hey man, let's schedule a secondary call for yourself and or for myself, yourself and your acquisitions or contracting personnel to sit down and figure out how we best make this happen and make this work. So it's easiest for everybody.
So it sounds like part of my trigger then is to develop that built out list of questions that need answering.
Yep.
Because if my client or that prospect doesn't understand the options available to them, like you said, they may show up with a Volkswagen budget, but be asking for all the features of a Ferrari.
Yep.
So to understand what that is ahead of time, extremely valuable. Well, now let's move into the R and trim, which is making this repeatable. Just like in the military, we do things by the numbers. I know they did that to you in your officer qual course, and they did that to me at Paris Island. So what are those repeatable steps that I need to follow as a salesperson once I've got those questions outlined and I'm in a conversation with this prospect to help them understand what budget they should be building? What are those 6 or maybe less steps that I should be following?
So I think that the 6 steps you should be following are run back to budget every time. So you need to be asking, hey, where's the budget at? Has it been allocated? Has it been approved? I mean, for the government side of things, there's a very unique cycle that it goes through in terms of research, and we're understanding where we are at in that cycle is very dire and important to making this go as fast as possible, because as we know, the government's not fast in anything they do.
All right, so I've got, has it been allocated? Has it been approved? What are the other things that I should be doing as part of this repeatable process with each prospect?
You can also ask them, what are the next steps? So from there, because a lot of these government agencies and even the DoD, even though they're one entity tied up under the government, they're all going to operate very differently. From a Spirent perspective, we always go back to, what are you trying to test? What are you trying to accomplish? Because we are a network testing and assurance company. We want to understand the end goal of what they are trying to do, so that they're not all trying to accomplish something different, and we would be presenting an entire different solution. So that's the big questions that I come back to every time is what is your desired end state? What is your desired goal? And then what budget? Because based on those two, we're able to zero in on the solution, and then what level of configuration in the solution that we submit or recommend to them to be able to hit their goal, because they want to be able to accomplish their mission, and they want to be able to use their money they have. So
what happens then, Tyler, if I'm going into an organization and they're looking for that Ferrari solution, but not knowing any better, they've developed a Volkswagen budget? What advice would you give a salesperson to help them reallocate funds or find them differently, or maybe define their end states better so that they can sell it to their stakeholders? What advice would you have there?
I mean, that's a tough one, because depending on where you get into the government cycle, if they've already submitted budget for this next FY, for the next calendar year, and they might be, if they've gotten to the point where they've submitted that budget and it's approved, they're just going to be looking to the following year, 12 months. There's really no way for them to backdoor pull that money back if it's that deep in the process, because in order for them to pull the money back and resubmit another budget, it's going to take another 9-10 months. So being early, having those conversations during the initial meeting to make sure that they understand, or you understand what they are trying to accomplish, and then you also understand the budget that they have available, making sure you are having those conversations at the first meeting. I think that's the most important. But I mean, most companies are going to have levels to. In the OEM side, we have software as a service, or we even do services, which if they say, hey man, we really need to accomplish this, we really need to get this testing, but we really need to get this testing done in the next 4 months. But yeah, we just did a Volkswagen budget for a Ferrari solution. Spirent itself, we offer solutions or testing as a service. So it's something that we have a gap or a gap that we saw that we filled. So that's usually my recommendation to my customers, but it's going to be different for based on everyone's different product offering and where they get to that discovery with the client or with the end user in the sales cycle.
And it sounds like then part of the trigger on this whole system is defining what does early, like, what does showing up early ahead of the budget formulation look like? Because if I can't get it this year, how do I make sure that I'm back in touch with value added material at the early stage of the next budget development cycle? So that's a brilliant one. So I've got the trigger, making it repeatable. Now the iron trim, just like we had in the Marine Corps, is making sure this is improvable. We know that when you and I were in, we weren't fighting like we did back in the Revolutionary War days. We'd learned some things. We'd improved the way that we fought. So we were being able to be more successful on the battlefield. What do I want to do, weekly, monthly, quarterly to this system to make sure that I'm improving it? Is it looking at, all of the things going on in the industry and figuring out how can I add more value? How do I drive more engagement? What would you recommend that a salesperson do to make sure this is as efficient and as effective a system as possible?
Yeah, I think 100% looking at industry and deciding what you can do to add value. But I think in the area that we're discussing right now, you want to know what the cycle of acquisition and budget is for every single account that you have. So as you start to, so then you're not guessing. You're not just going back and waiting on them. You're removing that hope. You're not just going back to your end user and waiting on them to call you and say, hey, man, I've got a project for this. You start reaching out further and you understand their goals for even 2-3 years out. Hey, after we finish this project, we're looking to accomplish this in 2025. We're looking to accomplish this in 2026. All right, well, that sounds great, man. How can I follow up with you? When's a good time to follow up with you to make sure that we are getting ahead of this thing and we have the budget, the configurations, the solution identified as early as possible so that we do not miss any deadlines and you have all the information you need. I have all the information I need as early as possible. So just a simple question is, when is a good time for us to sit down and talk through this?
That's awesome. I love that. And then that moves us right into the M in trim, the final step, which is measure. Because if I'm looking at developing the time to do this system, it's going to mean more outreach. It's going to mean a lot more of a detailed, probably, account report on my CRM of all the things I'm learning, how they budget, when they budget, what success looks like to them. More time on me as a salesperson I might not have been spending before. I need to justify that time, Tyler. Now, I'm curious on the measurement piece, because this could look a lot of different ways, and all of our guests have given us different ways to measure the effectiveness of systems. I could be doing this off of just how many more deals did I close, but because we're specifically talking about budget, I'm curious if I should be measuring the difference in budget between when we first started talking and what the closed value of the budget might be. Where would you recommend I begin measuring? What's important to measure as it applies to systemizing budget formulation for my prospects?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think there are some components in Salesforce to where you can look at initial opportunity value versus closed opportunity value. I think that would be a great measurement tool because that proves that you're having the conversations early. You understand the budget from the day you created that opportunity value to the day it closes. So you understand you've had those early conversations. So I think the differentials between initial opportunity value and closed opportunity value would be a great measurement, great metric. But I'd say aside from that, I mean, anytime you go through your Salesforce, you go through your opportunities, you always want to see next steps. So next steps in your status, you want to have a next step at all times. If you, and a calendar on a date calendar on that. You don't ever want to just say, hey, followed up or had a conversation with Jim on November 17th, blank. You want to have those, you want to have those next steps. So
that's amazing. So we've got the trigger, making it repeatable, improvable, and measurable. Also that we can better serve our customers. We'll probably close more dollar value as the result of this system, but ultimately we're helping them better understand the solutions they're looking for and all the options out there available to achieve those solutions, which ideally we can position ourselves as providers for. But regardless, if that customer leaves knowing that we're there in a service-oriented mindset, to your very first comment in this interview, they'll know that we're in it for them and not just for us. So, Tyler, great philosophy. I'm so glad the Marine Corps, gave you those skills to be able to do this now with. If people are interested more in what you do, who you work with, maybe they're in DC or they're in the government contracting business, they want to get in touch with you, how do people get deeper into your world?
Yeah. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I mean, that's where I operate most of my conversations and stuff. I've been fortunate enough to make some really great connections through LinkedIn, and Sean, you and I met through LinkedIn. So this has been great. And just so everybody knows, he just threw that trim thing at me. So we came up with that on the fly. So, but yeah, my LinkedIn profile, Sean will post it. You'll post it correct after we get through with this. So please shoot me a message. I'd love to know what you think. And yeah, I'm always learning. So this is by no means the 100% right answer, just always improving, getting better and learning every day. So yeah, thanks. I had a great time.
Awesome, sir. Well, for all the listeners and viewers out there, if you're catching this on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing to that YouTube channel, Bulletproof Selling. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts can be found, make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button. Leave us a review and let other salespeople know that hope it doesn't have to be part of their strategy anymore. Tyler, thanks so much for giving back to the sales community. Thanks so much for the service that you gave to our country. From one Marine to another, Semper Fi, sir. Let's get out there and make selling bulletproof.
There we go. Thanks, man.